Hello, everybody, and welcome to Deep Dive Plugins for Line Edits. My name is Karistina Lafae, and I'm your host for Plugin School, aka Deep Dive Plugins. My wonderful co-host is Tomas, and if you think so after class, um, it'll ask you to leave some feedback, and we love comments, and we love 5-star reviews if you think we've earned them. Um, I'm not going to read this part out loud, but it is there if you'd like to refer to it. I have a little spiel about Sudowrite plugins. Sudowrite plugins are created by your fellow Sudowrite users who do this for free and for their specific needs. As such, plugin maintenance isn't always on the radar of plugin authors who may have moved on to different ways of doing things. So older plugins might not work the way they used to due to changes with the large language models that they utilize. LLMs are constantly changing how they work, what the restrictions are, how much output they produce, etc., etc. And these things will change without plugin authors even being aware of it. This is why some of our previous go-to plugins will sometimes break or produce unwanted results, and this is why we still develop new plugins as the need arises. As a disclaimer, class information was accurate as of today, February 17th, 2025, as we sit here today. I shared the link to the this class document that I'm reading from in chat. You can pull it up anytime. And please hold your questions until the end. Use the raise hand function to make sure no one gets talked over while their question's being addressed. So, plugins for line edits. Some of our plugin classes cover broad topics like entire genres, while others, like this, home in on a very specific task that can be accomplished different ways with plugins. Editing plugins are an entire category, but line editing is something more specific. The plugins we're going to look at today are those that will read your prose line by line to suggest edits that focus solely on the flow, style, and readability of the manuscript. Line edits tend to come before copy edits in the editing process. There may be more line edit plugins that I was not able to identify with my search terms. If something you like to use isn't listed here, let me know in chat and I can add it at the end of class so that other people can access those plugins too. The first one I wanted to take a look at is the Flesch Reading Ease Score Wizardry plugin by Colm Dalton. It has medium credit usage, and since readability is one of the important parts of line editing, I thought we'd look at this one first. It says, unlock the power of clarity with Flesch Reading Ease Score Enhancement. Are you looking to engage a broader readership, simplify complex ideas, or just make your content more reader-friendly? Prompt can help you achieve just that. With our assistance, you'll transform your text into a breeze to read while maintaining its integrity. Our expertly crafted prompt empowers you to improve your content's Flesch Reading E-score, ensuring it falls within the 60 to 70 range, making it accessible to a wider audience. We'll guide you in streamlining sentence structures, using simpler language, and preserving your message's clarity. So this is going to specifically help with readability. And it's going to look at both preceding and highlighted text. And I'm going to give it a spin on a short story, well, one chapter of a short story that I came up with just this weekend. So let's see what it has to say. This was all prose generated by Muse, which is still in beta, but hopefully we'll be seeing it soon. And let's click here. Okay, so this is more than 2,000 words of highlighted text. I'm not sure what the maximum number of words is for use with this plugin, but let's see what it gives us. Oh, I was expecting it to give me a little summary of the reading score, reading ease score, but we just have the actual edits that it made, rewriting it to make it more reader friendly. Like instead of the word underglow here, it just has us going with a neon glow bathed the crowd. Um, and instead of making their faces flicker with electric anticipation, we have making their faces flicker with excitement. Um, yeah, it's simplified a lot of the vocabulary. And let's see. The original paragraph here, we have the night blurred around them, a series of dark shapes and glowing taillights. Streetlights whizzed by, illuminating cars that danced dangerously close to one another before breaking away. Jessa loved this, the thrill of danger without the risk. She could almost feel the rumble of the street beneath her boots as she leaned forward, eyes tracking Spark's neon blur. Um, the this plugin suggests with slightly different language, or no, is this one? Nope, this is pretty much the same. My eyes had thought it was different. Oh, here's this short paragraph here. It changed. We have she couldn't help the laugh that bubbled up. The race tore past her, but she kept her eyes on Spark, watching the other cars shoot by, his advantage slipping through his fingers. It decided to change it up to she couldn't help but laugh. The race tore past her, but she kept her eyes on Spark, watching the other cars shoot by as his advantage slipped away. So that it's saying mostly the same thing, just slightly differently. Uh, let's see. Oh, it did keep going here. This was a rather long passage, and it looks like it did the whole thing. Um, really cracked a rare smile, brief as a blink, but just as bright, and spun in their chair, letting the moment wash over them. This was what they lived for, the thrill of the plan coming together and the knowledge that nothing could derail it. It was Rayleigh's own kind of symphony, and the opening notes had just begun. We got a little cliche there, but um, it does change a little bit over here with the plugins edit. Rayleigh cracked a rare smile, as brief as a blink, but just as bright. They spun in their chair, immersing themselves in the moment. This was what they lived for. The thrill of a plan coming together and the unwavering confidence that nothing could derail it. It was Rayleigh's own symphony, and the opening notes had just begun to play. It changed up the punctuation here to improve the flow, which I think does end up working better. I do wish it had told me what the actual what the reading score was for this. Um, but it cost 2,515 credits to basically rewrite this entire chapter, um, so that it was easier to read than it was with the original vocabulary. Um, and that's not too bad considering it was a complete rewrite. Um, Generally, you would have done some other edits before doing your line edits. Just at least a once over, um, after the AI uh, does its thing with chapter generator or the write button or however you come up with your prose, even writing it by hand. It's good to give it a look over so that it's not correcting stuff that you want to change anyways. But yes, okay. The next one we're going to look at is simply called Line Editor. And I have very little information about this, but I wanted to check it out because it is called Line Editor and it was the most popular line editing plugin with 68 users. So I figured we should see if it does what it says on the tin. So we're going to run it on the same text, hopefully. This does need fewer than 2,000 words, so we'll just stop it after this part and see what it can do with the first 2 out of 3 scenes in this chapter. This is essentially where they're recruiting different members for this heist that they're going to be doing. So it follows 3 separate characters being recruited. We're going to do 2 out of 3 here. So this plugin identified that the genre is action and thriller. As this is a demo project that I set up from here, it does not have anything in Story Bible, so it came up with this on its own. And the style, fast-paced and engaging. Let's see how it changed up our opening paragraph here. Our original opening paragraph is, the Miami air hung heavy with gasoline and humidity, vibrating with the roar of a dozen engines. A neon underglow bathed the crowd, making their faces flicker with an electric anticipation. Low-slung cars lined the cracked pavement, each a beast waiting to be unleashed. Voices shouted over the noise, a frantic, gleeful excitement that was as tangible as the grit underfoot. Our line editor plugin decided that we're going to actually combine the first 2 paragraphs, it looks like. And we have, the Miami air was thick with gasoline and humidity, resonating with the thunderous roar of a dozen engines. A neon underglow bathed the crowd, their faces flickering with electric anticipation. On the cracked pavement, low-slung cars awaited their moment to thunder ahead. Amidst the frantic excitement and gleeful shouts that competed with the noise, Jessa leaned against her car. Her hazel eyes sparkled mischievously as she scanned the scene. Despite her petite stature, the leather jacket, ripped jeans, and spiky purple hair marked her as a force to be reckoned with. That does pretty much completely rewrite this whole second paragraph here to make it more connected to the opening paragraph. And I do think that flows a little bit better, even though we left out her small snake tattoo peeking out from beneath her sleeve. Oh, nope, we get to that. We get to that here. As it transitions better, with the night held a promise of thrill and danger as Jessa eyed Marcos Spark Vega, absorbed in revving his engine in readiness for the competition. A small snake tattoo stealthily peeked from beneath her sleeve as she crossed her arms, seemingly searching for a particular face in the crowd, someone who might detect her upcoming move. So, yeah, I think this does a lot better introducing the characters in this scene and tying them to the action, something that the original text didn't have. It just has a little bit of something extra. So I'm kind of happy with how it rewrote this. We've got 1,219 credits to run this, and let's see if it actually got to the end of the section. Okay. I'm not sure. I think we might have also gone through the section with Kiana Makoa, but we did at least get the full first scene, but not all of it. Just double check up here. Already plotting the next move. Plotting yeah, so we highlighted this scene too, but it did not get to that in there. So you might want to use smaller sections of text than the 2,000 words because it decided to only do the first part of this. So you can save yourself some credits by only highlighting one scene at a time instead of trying to do a whole big chapter containing more than one scene. Then we are going to look at a couple of different plugins by John. This one is Line Edits Haiku 3.5, medium credit usage. And this plugin asks, what are the 10 most important line edits you would make in this prose? Select the prose and run the plugin. About 1,000 to look at, 5,000 words. Oh, about 1,000 credits to look at 5,000 words, can handle up to 60,000 words, but likely better on smaller windows of text as you edit. It takes a little while to process, but the results are much better than the faster models. Also, spicy editing is okay. It's always good to see when a plugin author has tested plugins on spicy text. And I just noticed the system prompt that is visible with the plugin is, I am a genre fiction publishing agent and developmental line editor. So you're just telling Haiku that it's going to be a line editor and do the job for us. So let's see how this plugin will do with our scene here.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons it can work is because it's editing, it's evaluating, it's letting you know
Mm-hmm.
about things. It's not writing for you.
Right.
And so it's okay for Haiku to do that.
Yeah, I like that we can compare how these different plugins work. Some of them just do a simple rewrite. This is analyzing the text before it makes the line edits. So what we have here, it did a genre analysis and determined that this was an urban heist thriller with multi-purpose narrative, subgenres of cybercrime, street racing, and social justice heist. Style analysis is high octane, kinetic prose, character-driven narrative, atmospheric world building, multicultural urban setting, stylized dialogue, rhythmic, almost musical language progression. So, our 10 most important line edits. I'm going to disagree with this first one because it has one of our characters who likes to say super um, sarcastically or ironically, and it doesn't like the use of exclamation points to use and says to use them sparingly. Since it is a line of dialogue, I'm I'm not overly concerned about exclamation points. But otherwise, you don't want to have a lot of exclamation points in your prose if it's not dialogue. Inconsistent dialogue punctuation, current inconsistent comma and period usage in dialogue, edit, standardized dialogue punctuation, justification creates professional, consistent reading experience. Yes, that's a good thing. Since I haven't edited this text, I haven't done anything with the punctuation, and that is a legit concern. Repetitive descriptive patterns, current multiple sections use similar electric or charged atmosphere descriptions. The edit diversified descriptive language justification prevents prose from feeling formulaic. That is also good advice. Excessive metaphorical language. We probably all have to work on this when we work with various language models to generate text. Says current, some metaphors feel overwrought, like a needle or like a record with a needle scratch. It says edit, streamline metaphors, choose more precise imagery, justification, maintains narrative momentum. So basically, cut down on all the metaphors. Although the grammarian in me would like to point out that like a record with a needle scratch is a simile, not a metaphor, because it uses like or as. um, Perspective consistency, current, shifts between close third person and more omniscient perspectives. Edit, establish clearer narrative distance for each character. Justification, improves reader immersion and narrative coherence. This is something I definitely have to look at. It is supposed to be from a limited perspective, so I'll have to take a look at it to ensure that that is consistent throughout. Dialogue authenticity, current. Some dialogue feels slightly stylized or unnatural. Edit, refine dialogue to sound more conversational. Justification increases character believability. 7, we have pacing and transitional sections. Current, some section transitions feel abrupt. Edit, adds smoother connective tissue between narrative segments. Justification overall improves overall narrative flow. I would probably need to ask another plugin which transitional sections specifically need to be done better. Like if it's supposed to have a brief line break or something, that's not necessarily something we need to worry about transitioning more smoothly. Um, let's see, redundant character descriptions. Yes, some repeated character descriptions. It suggests to edit, introduce character traits more economically, and the justification increases narrative efficiency. This is a result of the character descriptions from Story Bible being used a little too heavy-handedly when introducing characters. So that's also something this line editor would like us to look at. Tense consistency. Yeah, that's an important thing. Got to check to make sure it's all past tense here because we're not doing present tense. And if it does slip into present tense, that is going to take the reader out of the narrative. Thematic clarity. Current themes of social justice slash heist feel slightly underdeveloped. Yes, since this is only the beginning of a story, we're obviously going to be doing more with that later. Overall assessment, strong, energetic prose, compelling character dynamics, needs targeted refinement and technical execution, potential for powerful multicultural heist narrative. Developmental recommendation, consider tightening narrative focus, potentially connecting character arcs more explicitly to central heist slash mission objective. So this is all really good advice
So I
that
had a
you,
question for you. This is a little
sure.
different than I expected. Did we get a pop-up before you
I did not see a pop-up.
oh.
Um, Let me just check real quick. This was 779 credits. We can try running it again to
Well, wait, wait,
see.
wait. Copy
Okay.
out something you're interested in finding out about. If you did get a pop-up, we should put it in there. So like
Okay.
number 7, you were asking for more information about.
Yeah. All right. We'll see if we get a pop-up here. Trying this. What?
Because what I was expecting was more
Oh, nope. Still no pop-up.
no pop-up. Okay, let's see if it actually gives us something that's more uh real. No, it's going for the consistency.
Okay. This one with the pacing still mentions transitions that can be jarring, but doesn't point anything specific out. But we do have the dialogue between Zara and Brick feeling slightly overconstructed. So it does suggest a very specific edit with a line of dialogue. Looking for someone like you, someone who knows how to. I hope you didn't all hear that crash on my microphone. It's
Nope.
no big deal. Um, I was just startled for a moment. Okay, looking for someone like you, someone who knows how to score even when the defense is strong. It suggests changing it to looking for someone like you, someone who knows how to score when the defense is tight. The defense is tight. Um, yeah, that is a little tighter for dialogue. I would approve of that change here. Sensory description calibration in the Miami racing scene. It wants me to add more specific descriptions of heat, engine, oil, smell, and vibration. Um, Character motivation clarity. Yeah, that's probably understandable because this does not have greater context here. Metaphor consistency. It did tell us that the first time too. Dialect and voice nuancing, sparks dialogue, more authentic code switching and cultural specificity, integrate more natural Spanish language inflections to increase cultural authenticity and character depth. Yeah, we'd probably want to take a look at Sparks dialogue to see what the problem areas are. Um, I do like that running this the second time. It has the location for whatever the recommendation is, um, like the tension arc management. Edit slightly more mechanical specificity during Spark's car failure, add more technical details about the car's specific mechanical breakdown to increase the technical credibility of the scene. I like that. That's not something I would have thought about. Perspective consistency. Um, I don't understand the more consistent use of they them pronouns because that's Rayleigh's pronouns. Um, Thematic connectivity, again, with the transition points, exposition management, balance between character introduction and active scene progression, integrate character background more dynamically into action. I think that's what we saw the previous line edit plugin do when it rewrote the opening 2 paragraphs or opening 3 paragraphs. It did a much better job balancing the character introductions and the narrative. Overall assessment, the prose is highly energetic with strong individual character voices and a cinematic quality. Primary opportunities for improvement involve creating more narrative cohesion and refining specific linguistic choices to enhance authenticity and depth. And then asks if would you like me to elaborate on any of these suggested edits? So that's something I could paste into the document and
And
run
rerun
the
it. Yeah, give it a question of information that you want, and then rerun it by sticking that at the end, treating this like a conversation or a chat window. Yeah.
Mhm. And that could be
But
pretty interesting.
let's do we did you say you have a few more in my line edit?
I do. Next, I wanted to look at DeepSeek R1.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Um, this is essentially the same plugin, but using DeepSeek's R1 model. Um, I I like how DeepSeek does its reasoning. So I'm curious to see how this is going to be different from the Haiku version.
Okay,
Okay,
this
help.
has a thing. So you could
This
drop an
does.
answer or a question here if you wanted more information or specific information. But let's
Let's see.
thanks.
What would be the most useful question I could ask it for the purposes of this demonstration?
Do you have
Uh,
it's number 7 that you were using in your paste?
yeah. Do I still have that?
Yes.
Yeah. Just remove the number 7 there. And I could reword it, but I'm just going to see what it'll do with that information.
Yeah.
And in case you are unfamiliar with how DeepSeek works, as it is more of a reasoning model, it takes more time before you start to see the output that it's going to give us. So we have to try to be patient while it thinks, and um, it's going to keep thinking as we're looking into this. Here are 10 critical line edits focused on transitional pacing issues with numbered justifications and examples. 1. Problem. Abrupt shift from Miami finale to Chicago opener. Original. They walked off together, then line break, balls pounded on the asphalt. Edit. Insert transition paragraph after Miami scene. As Jessica's laughter faded into Miami's engine haze, 1,000 miles north, winter gnawed at Chicago's concrete teeth. Y creates geographic/temporal bridge via contrasting sensory details of heat versus cold. Okay, that's actually kind of interesting. I could work with something like that before the line break. Problem, sharp POV jump from external race action to Spark's internal panic. Ah, this is getting at one of the other points that it made that I was unclear about, where it wanted me to change things. So the original, she couldn't help the laugh break. It started as a cough. Edit, add connective tissue. That's an interesting way of putting it. The sound of her amusement carried further than either realized, straight into Spark's spiraling dread as his engine gave its first treacherous sputter. Why? This links Jess's emotional beat directly to Spark's physical consequence. This is also a really good edit, um, for this text. I would love to run this, later on the version we got from the line edit plugin that was not John's, that didn't have a listed author. I'd love to run this plugin on that output, because we would further fine tune all of these things. But I wanted to run it on the same text just to compare what we're doing here. Problem, jarring shift from race conclusion to character partnership. Original, he stepped out to, and then he saw her. Edit, add environmental cue. Like, for 3 choking heartbeats, the world narrowed to exhaust fumes and failure. Then, movement at his periphery. Also, that's awesome prose. Y creates micropause emphasizing Spark's defeat before introducing Jess's entrance. Another problem, overly sudden intro of Rayleigh after the Brick and Zara scene. Original, Zara blended back, and then the light in the room was dim. Edit, insert timeline/mission link. Like 3 hours later, and 2 states east, a single dim bulb answered Zara's chess move. Rayleigh Nguyen didn't mind. Why? Temporal/spatial marker plus mission progress callback the chess metaphor, which is something that her character uses, is a lot of chess metaphors. So then we have a quick cut that it wants us to transition better here. The Brick and Zara negotiation lacks mid-scene momentum. This is an important thing. Instead of having I think I'm in, and then Zara blended back into edges, it suggests a tactile transition, like their handshake lingered, Brick's palm still buzzing when she turned back to her team. Across the court, Zara adjusted her cufflinks, already mentally erasing herself from bystanders' memories. I like that too, because we don't want them connected in people's minds when the heist eventually goes down. Um, Zara doesn't want to be remembered as having talked to Brick. We also have an issue with no lead into Rayleigh's operational role post-heist agreement. The Spark and Jessa confrontation lacks environmental reset post-race chaos. And the underdeveloped pivot from Rayleigh's isolation to collective mission. Yeah, these are all some issues. Missing bookend contrast between opening and closing energies. Nice. This suggests an edit that uses an auditory motif to contrast settings while priming for tonal shift toward heist execution. These edits prioritize spatial and temporal orientation, sensory triggers, and mission progress callbacks to self-abruptness via narrative glue rather than filler words. I would say that this is a lot smarter than the Haiku 3.5 version, because it does break stuff down at a much more basic granular level, which is what you're looking for when you're doing line edits. The limitation of this plugin is that it only does 10 specific line edits, but you can run it multiple times after you've made adjustments to
So
see
yes,
what.
you can run it multiple times. You
Mhm.
can run it on smaller chunks. If there's an issue that
Yes.
you're worried about, you're not sure about, you can run it on a smaller chunk and it'll still do 10 or try to do 10 about that smaller chunk. Um, I I tried doing more than 10, it just won't do it. Like it becomes word
Yeah,
vomit. So
sometimes you don't want it to start spouting gibberish by asking it to do more than it's capable of. So I can appreciate that. And it also keeps the editing process a little more focused, and you can keep going back in because 1,108 credits, I don't see that is all that expensive if I'm getting this kind of quality material for making concrete specific edits to the text. We're going to take a little bit of a detour to a thriller line edit plugin by Theophilus Monroe. I can't tell. Is this supposed to be 3 lightning bolts credit usage? It looks a lot dimmer than usual. Um, so they might have changed something. But it has these are the instructions that the LLM will see. You're an expert developmental editor for the New York Times best-selling thriller and suspense fiction novels and an expert at rewriting prose. It looks at highlighted text and it says output the strengths and weaknesses and make suggestions for improvement. Um, and we've got it looking for purple prose, where prose is told, not shown, unusual dialogue tags, filler words, cliches, passive voice. And it says quantify these as a percentage of the word count instead of using examples. So I'm not exactly sure how this is going to run. Um, do I run it on what I've got, or do we open up some Edgar Allan Poe? I think we might want to take a look at that, The Telltale Heart. All right. So The Telltale Heart, we're going to try this thriller line edit on Poe because why not? And we're going to let it run, and I'm going to take a drink because this is thirsty work. All right, I guess whatever model this uses, it takes a little while to do its thing. So we're going to wait and see what it's going to do for us here. Here's the passage revised according to your instructions. Okay, so this is rewriting it entirely um like the first plugins we tested out today. Um it doesn't have any particular issues with the fact that it's editing Edgar Allan Poe because it's AI, not a human, so it feels no sense of arrogance here. But here's how we would have our change text. True, nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am, but why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I could tell you the whole story. Let's see. Did we change anything here? Oh, we changed some tense and phrasing and sentence structure to true. Nervous I was and am, but why call me mad? The disease sharpened my senses rather than destroying or dulling them. My sense of hearing became especially acute. I heard everything in heaven, earth, and hell. So then, how could I be mad? Listen and observe how calmly and healthily I tell you the whole story. Um, I mean, we changed to something a little more modern from Poe's language. It does take away some of the floweriness of the prose. Um, And we have our second paragraph here. It's impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so, by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Um, it changes a bit here in the suggested line edits, for the idea haunted me day and night, once conceived, though I knew not how it first entered my brain. I had no motive, I had no passion. I loved the old man. He had never wronged or insulted me. I had no desire for his gold. I think it was his eye. One of his eyes resembled a vulture's, pale blue with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. Gradually, I resolved to take the old man's life and rid myself of the eye forever. So this does it takes away some of the flowery language and makes it a little more active than passive. Um, and it gets rid of a lot of filler words that make up some of the um, poetry of the original. But if you're not looking for poetic and flowery, then this plugin will at least give you the start of your edits here. It did let me highlight the entire 2,122 words to run the plugin, but it only gave us 492 words back, so it cut off in the middle. The solution would be to just select this or select smaller passages of text, maybe just a couple paragraphs at a time. I probably wouldn't do more than these first 3 paragraphs with this plugin if I were to be editing again with it. Um, this one cost us 1,108 credits. Nope, that is not, it did not tell me
Maybe it
how
didn't.
much this
Maybe
one
it cut off
cost.
because it didn't finish, or it died.
Yeah, interesting. Um, I'm gonna run it again just to see how much it should charge because I want to let people know. I want to let everybody know how much these different plugins cost as I'm demonstrating them, since that is a factor that many people consider when choosing the plugins that they're going to run. We are going to have to wait a minute for this to run again because it is thinking maybe this is one of the Claude models.
It's either the Claude model or maybe it's a dual stage.
Oh,
Maybe it
it
does
could be
like
a
a
dual
line
stage.
edits and then it treats the line edits and thinks and prints it out.
That's a possibility.
And that's why we
So
have 3 lightning bolts.
yes. So here's the revised passage with the requested changes. We didn't have this opening line to let us know that this is what it was doing the first time we ran it. Sometimes you're going to get that. We also got a very different opening paragraph here. Um, so it's interesting to see how different the results can be running the same plugin on the same material just another time. Um, Instead of starting out with true nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous, we have my nerves are raw, exposed like stripped wire. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease sharpens my senses, not destroys or dulls them. Above all is the sense of hearing acute. I hear all things in heaven and earth. I hear many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken, observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. it's easier to read this out loud as narration because this does flow a little bit better, so you can tell you're supposed to read it with a little bit of madness in your voice. Um, no, it looks like this stopped too. Very
And it
weird.
doesn't charge you. So
Maybe this is DeepSeek Instant.
DeepSeek Instant doesn't is it charges you now.
It does. All right.
It's not free
Date.
anymore.
Okay, it's not
It's
free anymore.
cheap.
So
It's
that's
cheap,
not
but
it.
it's not.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. I can't tell you how many credits this cost because it didn't charge me any credits. My apologies. But just that's something to be aware of. I I don't know how good this. Okay.
You're still online with us.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Uh, okay. I didn't read this entirely before I decided to show it in class. Alpha Sarcastic Line Edits updated. Apricot O'Brien created this one. It's got medium credit usage and it says this plugin edits text to enhance an alpha male personality. That's where I stopped reading when deciding on examples of prose earlier, making characters more controlling, bossy, and sarcastic. It changes the POV to first person past tense or present tense, uses active voice, and maintains the text's original length without anticipating what comes next or concluding the story. Y'all, I selected a chapter of Moby Dick because I was like, all right, what are some alpha male characters in public domain literature? And I asked AI for some examples, and it was like, hey, Captain Ahab in Moby Dick is the type of alpha male you're looking for. Um, but this should be interesting because of the way it's going to rewrite the text in a very different way, not from Ishmael's perspective, but going to rewrite it from Captain Ahab's perspective, I think. Um, let's see how it goes. Da-da-da-da-da. Or is this not properly added to my... Let's close some of these extra windows. Alpha sarcastic line edit. Okay, it did not get properly added earlier, so we are going to try again now, and I didn't have to refresh or anything. It just popped up here once the other window added it. All right, so the very dry text of Moby Dick, um, told from the perspective of a crew member aboard the ship, we have a very different rewrite of the text. So this chapter, the musket, chapter 123, we have Captain Ahab stirred in his sleep, muttering the name of his nemesis, Moby Dick. The ship's first mate, Starbuck, stood at his doorway, musket in hand. He had considered ending their captain's life there, and then to prevent further disaster at sea, but instead he turned away from the door and ordered the second mate to wake their captain. He's too sound asleep, he said with a sneer. Go down and rouse him yourself. I need to attend to the deck. As Stubb descended below deck, Starbuck took charge on the storm-tossed vessel. He commanded with an iron grip on every decision made by those under him. Oh, we're making Stubb the alpha male here. Here we go. He commanded with an iron grip. His voice boomed through the wind and waves like thunder as he barked orders left and right, all while keeping a watchful eye on their pursuer, Moby Dick. The crew trembled under his gaze, but obeyed without question or hesitation. They knew better than to cross an alpha male like their captain. With every passing moment that found them still alive amidst this tempestuous sea, Starbuck grew more confident in his leadership abilities. His mind drifted toward darker thoughts, though, thoughts of domination and control over not just the ship, but also its crew, and even their captain if need be. The image of Ahab bound and subdued beneath him sent shivers down Starbuck's spine, yet it also filled him with a perverse sense of power. So, this takes a very different tone than the original text
Mm.
of Moby Dick. Um, Obviously, it's not meant for a story like Moby Dick, but if you're trying to write something that has an alpha male character, who is a point of view character, this could be an interesting one for your line editing purposes to make sure he is as alpha male as anybody could hope for. Um, it did let me select the whole chapter, but it only gives us 363 words. So moving forward, I wouldn't want to use this on more than probably 500 words at a time. Um, so this is more of just a fun one, a very specific purpose for a certain type of story. Um, I am entertained by this. And as we are 5 minutes from the top of the hour, um, if you don't like spicy stuff, this is why it's the end of class. You don't have to pay attention if you don't want to. Um, so that is all for today. Thank you for coming, and I hope to see you next week because we do these plugins classes every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can sign up at Luma, that's lu.ma/Sudowrite. You can sign up for all of our Discord classes or all of our Sudowrite classes. Um, and you can find me on Discord in the plugins channel if you'd like to talk plugins in between class times. All right. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Also, leave 5 stars if you can.
Yes, and leave 5-star reviews if you can and agree that we earned 5 stars, which hopefully we did. Thank you.